Hello, everyone, and welcome to our FERC Order 881 Managing Transmission Line Rating Phase 2 for the Methodologies Working Group. I'm here alongside with Raja, our Director of Operations Engineering Services, and my name is Brenda Corona. On behalf of the Stakeholder Affairs Group, we welcome you to this meeting and working group. On the next slide, we'll go over the housekeeping reminders that this call is being recorded for informational and convenience purposes only. Any related transcription should not be reprinted without the ISO's permission. This meeting is encouraged to do engage different dialogue and different perspectives. So please, we encourage you to ask questions during the call. As a reminder, if you do have any longer questions, feel free to send them through chat, as well as provide your organization title, so we can make sure to answer your questions effectively. On the next slide, we do have just like the instructions to asking a question. So if you have a question and you're joined through the WebEx, use on the lower tool handbar, you'll see the raise hand icon. That'll let myself and Stacy, our event producer, know who has a question. When you do ask a question, make sure you state full affiliation. If you do experience any technical issues, let us know. As well, we'll be sending out a attendance sheet like about 15 minutes or so to those folks who want to see who's on the call. And then we also want to go to the next slide, and we'll be, I think it's agenda. So we'll go ahead and have an agenda. So I also want to introduce the other folks that are on the call. We have Trevor, we have Andrew Omer, and so we'll, I'll let Raja kind of take it away from now, just to kind of introduce others if they need to be added. But go ahead, Raja. I do see you, and you're still on mute. Just want to make sure you're
okay. Good. Yep.
Great. I can hear you.
Yep. Good morning, everybody. This is Raja Tapitobla. Go to the next slide, please, Stacy. Yeah, this is just general overview that we have been sharing with different stakeholder calls with where we are with respect to the FERC 881 project timelines, right? And pretty much everybody should be aware of that. We have 3 different tracks that we have been working towards. Track 1 is the real-time reliability applications that an ICCP, through ICCP, potentially receiving the ARs from the TOPs that can do that, right? So there's some delays with the FAC 11 editions, and everybody's aware of that. April 1st was FAC 11 go live. That's been accomplished. All those things are done, implemented. So now the team is working towards the ICCP implementation. So the target capability is still technically on track. So once we have more information, we'll definitely share with the people on this call and the different stakeholder calls. Track 2, that I think the main component of track 2 is the look ahead ARs and how do ISO RC West is going to receive those ratings. That project, right? We have finalized a contract with the OET webliner. I'm going to discuss in the next slide about that. The target capability for that will be late 2024, early 2025. That is the goal for that overall project. And track 3 is all the implementation of all the different applications that will be using these ratings in the downstream, essentially all the downstream apps that will be using these ARs coming in different ways, right? I mean, ISO has a day-ahead market, real-time market, CRR market, as well as, the PTC calculations, a lot of different applications. And then RC West has the look ahead reliability applications, day ahead studies, D+2 reliability studies, D+3, as well as the short-term outage coordination studies. All those studies will potentially need to use these ratings, right? So at this point, we are still working on our project timeline, what tools we can technically accomplish by July 2025. Once again, there are going to be some delays in the sense potentially some tools we might not be able to finish it up. So that's why we are working on towards identifying those. Once we have a concrete definitive plan with respect to what tools we are able to finish it up, what tools we are not, then at that point we'll definitely go to FERC and request for an extension for those components. So we'll share with this group once we have details. We'll definitely share with you guys, with you folks, before we do any FERC outreach. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the OETA webliner, the contract has been signed. I know we took longer than what we anticipated. the contract negotiations, everything is done. They will be working, developing their base product to what we want. We have all the requirements. We are in the discussions with them and finalizing the schedules and all those requirements. Uh, as we have been telling you folks, we will share with you guys once we have a definitive plan how we're going to receive those ratings into this new tool, right? So before OETA starts any major code on their side, they promise that they'll finalize the formats, all the processes, how it will be, how the ratings will be acquired from the TOPs, and so we'll share with you guys so that you folks can start working on your development along with us, right? That is the intention. I can take a moment and see if there's any questions up to this point on the overall project timeline or overall different tracks that we have. I know that I do receive a lot of questions from different TOPs on where we are, what is our expectations, are we going to have any delays, right? Are we going to go to FERC, right? So I just wanted to make sure that everybody is on the same page with where we are and what you're hearing from us. Stacy, do you see? I don't think I can see people that raise hands, but if you're able to see, let me know.
So
I don't see any. Go ahead, Stacy.
There's no one in the queue at the moment.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, you can always ask any questions at the end as well. So next slide, please. So the slide that we have shared in your previous meetings as well, what our intentions are from an RC West point of view, what my goals are this next 2 quarters on the direction on what we're working on. Especially the first one we have mentioned, right? We're going to work with the WEC System Review Subcommittee and collaborate on the seasonal model development that reflect 4 seasons. That is the direction. And second one is collaborate and develop a process with the TUP and other RC investor interconnection on Thailand AR rating management. So we have some work done on that side. I'm going to talk in the next slides. The third one is the discuss and develop processes to calculate updated TTC. This is really early stage. We had some internal discussions as well as 1 or 2 TOPs discussions where what we can do, where we can head as a group. But we'll definitely share with this team and we'll have more discussions in this group settings once we have more concrete information. But I'm going to share on the first 2 goals, the work that we have been doing so far. Next slide, please. So on the WEC seasonal base case front, right? I did attend the WEC SRS committee, their April 11th meeting. I've been having calls with the WEC and WEC leadership over the past couple of months in different ways what we can do. But ultimately, what we have agreed upon, there's definitely good discussion that happened at that group, and there's generally I felt like there was definitely some support from the committee members on the need for those 4 base cases once we have the 881 in effective, right? So with the 4 seasonal ratings, there got to be 4 base cases, so we can actually do some studies, appropriate transfer studies or appropriate limit studies, path limit studies that needs to be done across the RC West footprint. So next steps, what we are doing is we are submitting a specialized case request for that group. So and then that group will take a vote in their next June meeting. So what does that mean? Once it goes to the vote, then we can once they go to the vote, then it go into their process and they will be working on developing this model. So we will attend those calls as well in the next June meeting and see how the voting goes. And we'll keep this group updated. But so far, based upon what I heard from different from WEC leadership as well as WEC SRS leadership and as committee members, I think we're on the right track on getting these models developed for 881 needs.
Roger, we do have a question.
Okay.
Come in. I think it was for the previous slide, but we'll double check. It's from Gage from BPA. He asked, has there been any discussion about adopting a specific API standard for importing ratings to the web line R? So I think for slide 7, I think
Yep.
you covered that.
Yep. Gig, I think that's exactly the case, right? We're working on finalizing that formats. Yeah, API, definitely OETA will have APIs where you're going to submit those ratings to automate it through, right? Not just user interface. Yeah, there'll be user interface for the TOPs, but we also expect automated API. And then what the format and all the stuff, right? We'll be finalizing and then sharing with the team. Hope that address your question, Gig. Trevor, do you want to add anything else on the API discussion? I know you've been a big part of the discussions.
No, I think that covers it. We're still working through the details.
Thank you, Trevor. So that's the essence of the effort on the seasonal base case models. I think we'll definitely have. I know the SRS definitely has two winter, summer, right? They already have been having. They also have a spring, but most of the time, what we have heard is the spring, right? There's no spring ratings, right? Not that many TOPs are calculating the spring ratings today, but come ATT1 implementation, most of the TOPs that fall under the FERC purview will be calculating those four seasonal and those spring ratings too. So the base case model that is being developed will have the appropriate ratings. So the new model is the fall autumn, right? That will be the one that will be developed once it gets to vote. But one question, I think, as part of the discussion, I think one thing that I wanted to mention to this team is there's a couple of questions surrounding, right, whether a uniformity can achieved on the seasonal start and end dates, right? Because the models need to have some dates. But generally, what the group thought was like, you cannot enforce one exact season definition on everybody, right? They got to be season start and end dates. But in developing the models, we can generally agree upon what those seasons are. So the SRS will definitely have those documented and hope that will be reflective of what most of the TOPs are using to calculate those seasonal ratings. So we'll try to come up with some element there as well. If there's no questions, I can move on to the next effort that we were. Yep, I know. Yeah, the next question is the next slide should help us with what we are talking. So hopefully that should help your question, Bill. So let's go to the next line. So this is on the tie line and joint-owned equipment rating coordination, right? So there's a lot of discussion going on. I know some TOPs, BPA, and a couple of other TOPs have approached us with what is going to be RC West philosophy on this. So we felt that this would be a good forum for us to have a discussion on what we are trying to do and which direction we can head towards to. So currently we're definitely planning, right? We are RC West is with the OETA WebLiner tool. We plan to at least develop a process to determine the lowest ratings on tie lines or the joint owned transmission lines in the OETA WebLiner tool. So what does that mean, right? So right, we'll have multiple owners. If you have a tie line if you have collect ratings from both either end TOPs, then you can, right, you have to determine what is the lowest, what is the appropriate rating on that. That will go into all our downstream applications, especially our day-ahead reliability studies, D+2 reliability studies, right, and 3-day out, and short-term outage studies, right? So all those things we'll only need one rating that is effective for that equipment that is in the model, right? So essentially we need to determine if there's a conflict between the two ratings, or then on the normal or emergency ratings, we definitely need to determine the lowest, what number will go in. Now, as so far, all the discussions centered on how RC West will be using these cleared ratings, right? That is when I say cleared ratings, identifying the difference, determine the lowest between those two, most conservative number between those two, and use this in our downstream applications. That's what I meant by cleared ratings. Now, as I mentioned, the discussion surrounding from questions from BPA and the TOPs is, could we technically share this rating with everybody, essentially be that rating clearinghouse, I know the term is being used most in other ISOs as well, is can we get to a point where we can be the cleared rating clearinghouse on those tile and joint owned units, or joint owned equipment, and share those ratings with the TOPs, again, with the appropriate TOPs, right? We cannot share with everybody, right? So that's why we need to determine who owns, right? What is the ownership and all we are working with OIT on those. Now, RC West is still considering this approach, right? Technically, we can do this. The tool OETA WebLiner can still do this. We're still looking into the logistics, how it can be done, what is the right way of doing this. But I want to take a moment and see if Gig from BPA, other TOPs want to chime in on this and see where we want to head with respect to this. We need to have something because we cannot, we had to resolve the conflict and only send one rating to the allowed downstream application. So can you go to the next slide and then we can have a discussion. Yeah, Gig, I know Gig brought up. So one thing that I wanted to mention, Gig, before going to the deep discussions, right? This approach will work seamlessly if there's a alignment on rating methodologies. I know we had early discussions late last year on, right? What does that mean? Can we get to an alignment on the tie lengths at least, right? Because if how entities calculate normal rating, how most of the entities do similar normal rating, but there's some nuances how each TOP does on a continuous rating, how they define, but on as well as the emergency ratings, right? So different TOPs have different emergency ratings and different durations, right? So that's where it becomes a little bit complicated in the sense when we say limiting most are conservative rating, how do you determine between one entity is sending an hour emergency rating and another entity is sending a 4-hour emergency rating, right? So we can put up a logic, but I want to make sure that we are all agreeing with what we're going to do and what rating we're going to share with if we eventually share, right? So I think that is where I think if an alignment is achieved, it would work seamlessly. But if it's not achieved, then we need to agree upon logic so that everybody understands where that number is coming from and how that number is being used. Now I'll take a moment and I'm hoping there's a discussion because I don't have that many slides after this. So this is going to be a key topic that we need a good discussion from all the TOPs and see what is the right direction for all of us. Gig, I know you raised your hand. Maybe, yep. Go ahead, Gig.
Yeah, we've been having some discussions about this. Essentially, the way that it works today is we get other utilities temperature-dependent ratings. So, like, they'll send us a ratings table with anywhere from -15°C to 40°C. And we put that and include it into our facility ratings tables. And then we import the most limiting ratings into our dynamic line rating tool. And right now we don't have it turned on to automatically calculate, but if we saw something in an RTCA violation, we would say, okay, what's the actual ambient temperature? This is what the rating we would expect to be. And then we have to, typically reach out if it's another utility's limiting element, ask them, are you okay with us using an ambient adjusted rating instead of your seasonal rating for whatever this, scenario is. So that's how we do it today. If we're going to do it moving forward in the future, there's just some questions of like, do we want to keep that same strategy where, BPA as an entity, just speaking about us, we would get the ratings tables from all the other utilities that are surrounding us, bring that into our system, do an ambient adjusted rating, send that to the RC, and then the RC would be a clearinghouse that would compare, a jointly owned BPA PGE line, and PGE would have the same thing, have all of BPA's ratings, calculate an ambient adjusted rating, send that to one place and do the comparison. Like that's one option that we could do. We could try to split it out where BPA is only doing ambient adjusted ratings on its pieces of equipment, which might not be the limiting element, and they would rely on PGE ambiently adjusting the limiting equipment, and then both utilities submitting to one place. Or do we just say whichever utility is responsible for submitting the ratings today to the full network model, do they just take that on and just one utility provides the ambient adjusted rating for the whole facility? And then, say BPA is responsible for it. We have our temperature sensors, we calculate the ambient rating, submit it, and then PGE pulls it. So there's lots of different ways to do it. And obviously they all have different challenges and potential issues with them. So I don't know if we've walked through each of those different options to determine which one's the best one.
Sure. So, Gig, I think one thing, right? One challenge, additional challenge is neighboring RC2, right? So in this case, how do you coordinate especially the TOs that are on the RC seams with RC SPP, right? How do we coordinate those tie lines ratings as well? So, right. I mean, again, I think eventually, like if all those ratings come to RC, and then, I mean, again, the plan is we're going to get from all the TOPs, right? So we need to work with SPP as well. If there's we're having discussions with them actually next week with SPP, how we can coordinate with those ratings too on the tie lines, right? With RCs. So now, if we get to that point, yeah, the technology, I think if both entities are sending, you clear it, right? Because we need to use that lowest rating on our processes as well. So we need to have that capability on our side. Now it's just, can we enable that number be seen from other TOPs, right? The limiting rating, because you already see what you're sending. So now it's just, you need to know, hey, is that the most limiting rating on the tie line? Now it can be done, but the problem is, I think one thing, as I mentioned, I just talked about this, is what is the rate? I use a simple less than. It can be 1 hour versus 4 hour, right? So it's always that 1 hour is always going to be less than the 4 hour. Is that the appropriate rating from right with what FERC is trying to do, trying to enhance the ratings on this process, right? It'll be conservative number for sure. And if you all agree that is the right direction, we can go by that. But if you can get to a level where everybody's doing same durations on I know we have a discussion, at least on tie lines, right? Then it will be more seamless to see, hey, what is the most limiting on that, right? That is the right number.
But right, like today we have emergency ratings, but we don't know how long they are for until we open up their, whatever the other utilities facility ratings methodology. We have to go through the facility ratings methodology to see, okay, how long does this emergency rating apply for? Or we call them. Those are kind of the two options.
Yeah. So we need, again, I think technically that the capability exists with the WebLine R. So we could again, we most probably enable that option where you can download that, right? So again, we need to, we'll once we finalize, we'll definitely share with the TOPs what is done. That is one way of approaching this problem. But I think for me, I still see if we can get an alignment, and which if we cannot get those alignment, then agree upon the logic. This is what RC is doing. This is the most limiting. This is how the most limiting rating is being calculated, and RC is using it, and definitely sharing with every TOP where is the number coming from, right? As long as we all agree to that, I think that should be one way going forward as well.
Yeah. So we've talked about WebLine R, but the real-time ratings are going to be submitted via ICCP.
Yep.
Is there a strategy for that as well?
Yeah. Technically, this is one thing that based upon your request, right? I know BPA did not want to send it to ICCP. So we'll have an option in the WebLine R where it can, we are definitely planning to build. I know Trevor can add more, or Cyril, if it's there, if you can want to add more. Those ratings from WebLine R will eventually go into our real-time process as well. So we could approach the same strategy there, right? Because if all the TOPs are sending those into it's a little bit change in direction. We still need to talk through, but at least BPAs we can receive through our WebLine R and use in our downstream applications. When I say the real-time applications.
Yeah, and I've been somewhat successful in getting BPA more on board with sharing via ICCP, the real-time ratings. So it's possible that we're able to do that. So whatever works best for you guys, we can send it to wherever it's going to need to be sent to. But yeah, I think that's definitely, if everyone's using ICCP for real-time, then does it have to like split off and go to WebLine R to determine which is the most limiting, and then you have to pull it out of WebLine R and put it back into your own EMS system? So it's kind of a weird, complicated system to work out, right?
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, right, if we get to the point where everybody wants RC to be the clearing house, then I think the best approach would be getting those ratings through WebLine R for all those tie lines, right? At least on the tie lines, not every line, because the logic is technically done only on the tie lines, right? So yeah, because that way we don't need to build another conflict resolution in real time. Real time is a little bit more friendly in the sense, right? Technically, RC can monitor both ends, right? We can receive both ratings, and we'll always use what are the most limiting rating. We'll always use it, but there'll not be a clearing house for you folks to receive that rating in the real time environment if you get through ICCP.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. In that case, it would kind of be maybe one utility would see a real-time, exceedance show up, whereas another utility might not, if there's some difference between how they're calculating or what temperatures they're using for that shared facility. So I think that would be the challenge, right? Is if EPA sees an issue and the RC sees an issue because you're using our rating because it's the most conservative, but PGE doesn't have it, they might not see the issue that we're seeing because their rating for that facility might not be as conservative as the one that BPA is calculating. So that's, it's possible we could just do that and work it out in real time. It's a little bit of what we do today. It's just, not as automated.
I mean, in a perfect world, right? If all the ratings are coming to WebLine R, if you can do that rating clearing house there, right, in the real time, which we can do. Now the question is, how can we share that with you folks in real time? How we can use everybody using the same number, right? So set up processes need to be set up, right? I mean, automation, it can be done, but it's mostly make sure that everybody on the same page. That's where the procedures or processes will come into picture, right? Yeah. So let's have more discussion on that. But for me, I think on the look ahead ratings, it should be straightforward. Because all the TOPs will be sending to us, right? We need to determine, because all our downstream applications, I cannot send both ratings into our downstream. When I say both ratings on both ends, right? We don't have the capability in all our downstream applications. So I have to send the one rating that is valid for that equipment. On the tie lines are joint owned. So I need to develop a logic there, definitely, right? So we can work out towards if you have different ideas. I know Sanman raised his hand. Maybe let's have more discussion and agree upon a going path forward for this. Go ahead, Sanman.
I think going back to, I think, Gage's initial point about, the RC being the clearing house for the joint ratings, at least for the future hours, I think PG would definitely support that notion as well. And anything we can do to kind of assist in that, we'll be more than happy to. Going back with the real-time exchange of ratings on tie lines, I think, as Gage pointed out, there could be multiple ways we could do that and how we could reflect that in our real-time or as well as day-ahead studies. One of the things that maybe this is more or less an update from PG's side, like one of the things we're working with our EMS vendor is the ability to import neighboring TOP's limits via ICCP and apply it to our ambient adjusted tool such that it will use the most limiting element for our EMS solutions. So if BP or Pacific Corp, like those are our immediate neighbors for PG, if they are able to provide the real-time ambient ratings via ICCP, then I think at least we could be monitoring the most limiting number. Secondly, maybe there is also a need to can have more coordinated discussion, especially with the neighboring TOPs, in what is the methodology on the ratings being developed for, especially for the tie line. And that would mean is just making sure, hey, if you're using the same weather parameters or weather inputs, is there a common ground where we can, or especially those interties or tie lines, it will be ideal scenario would be both the utilities would calculate the same rating. So then you won't have this discrepancy if you're using the same methodology. But I know that's an ideal scenario, but that is also something that could be explored.
Yep. Yeah, definitely, Sanman. I think one thing, right, as I've been mentioning, I think definitely there should be some more discussion getting alignment on duration, because that is what determines, right? Yeah, I mean, logic wise, yeah, the program can do what we want, right? But is that the right thing to do? I think that is where we need to we'll have more discussion. If there's an alignment, it will simplify the most limiting rating that gets spread along all the downstream applications. Yeah, we'll be on the same page. If it not, then there's always be 1 hour, 4 hours, right? So I know just on seasonal ratings, the differences between duration cause a lot of havoc, right? When you're talking with the neighboring RC, especially. Now we're talking about 240 hours, right? It's just going to be nightmare. It become more manual work if the durations are different. What is the right number?
Right. I agree on that. And I think we've kind of initiated some conversations with BP and PAC just to kind of have more of those technical discussions around, especially when it comes to individual facility ratings for our tie lines. So hopefully we can also cover some of that conversation and come to a joint methodology per se, hopefully.
Good, thank you. I know Nicholas from PAC has raised his hand, so maybe we can join. Go ahead, Nicholas. Yeah, you want to add on to? And I know if Bill wants to speak too, because he had a question in the chat.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to speak to like what Sanman was saying there as well. I'm definitely in favor of the RC facilitating being the clearinghouse. But I guess, you know, regardless of the emergency limits, alignment needs to happen, or it should happen to, I guess, facilitate the best outcome from it. But in terms of like what Gage said about sharing ratings tables, you know, lookup tables, or Sanman talking about alignment on methodology, like PacifiCorp is doing essentially an internal DLR system with our thermal limits module. So our limits are probably going to be, if I were to take a guess, they'd probably be a little bit higher than folks that are using lookup tables. So the alignment on methodology might be a little bit more of a discussion for folks that are interfacing with us if we're looking to have some alignment on that, since our system is a bit different than using a lookup table as an approach.
Thank you, Nicholas. It's good to know that. Yeah. So I'm assuming that you're calculating. You have a program that you're developing. You're importing all the weather forecast, and based upon different things, you're actually calculating those ratings for all those hours there.
That's right. Yeah, we're doing it like we're doing it by element, facility element, at the local temperature where it's located. So we're pulling in. We have a GIS interface, lat long, going to weather, getting that data, and then running the IEEE calculations on the equipment. So conductor or jumpers, bus work, whatever, to develop the AARs, and then doing series and parallel combinations on all those for all the equipment.
Excellent. So is it internal developed tool, Nicholas, or you have a vendor that you have contracted out?
No, this is an application that's available from OSI.
OSI.
So they have the OpenAR application, which is their base 881 compliance application, which facilitates lookup tables. But then if you purchase their thermal limits module, you have the capability of modeling the transmission or the line facility with all of its elements by location, individual weather measurements, and then you can specify what calculation methodology each piece of equipment is going to be calculated against, and then it rolls up the rating for the facility based on its equipment, local weather, calculation formula that you want it to use, and so on. So it's a pretty cool tool.
Good. Thank you. Hey, if you don't mind asking this question, would you be willing to, or maybe you can check internally to see if you can present it to this group in next couple of one of the meetings maybe? I know we can talk offline with you guys and see if there's a feasibility of that.
Yeah, I don't mind. I've done a similar presentation for a few different entities and WEC.
Excellent. Yeah. So I think we'll reach out with the help of our stakeholder team. We'll reach out to you folks and then see if we can set up something in the next future meetings. Thank you, Nicholas.
Sure.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, Bill, do you want to add on, Bill, if your question? I know this is the question that you had on the chat. This is the discussion. So, do you want to add any additional things, Bill, from your point of view? If not, it's okay too. Like if it addressed your question, the discussion, if the discussion addressed your question too, that's good. But let's again, I think the direction definitely we are headed, right? We plan to, we'll share with you folks once we have a clear direction from OETA, how they're gonna enable that so that you can receive this cleared rating, whatever it is, right? We'll definitely have the calculations done on OETA that the base product has it. So, and it's part of our requirements as well. So we'll share that. But I think the look ahead ratings, I think it's more generally I see looks like if the rating can be cleared from RC and looks like TOPs are willing to use that, I think that is a good direction. So maybe we need to have more discussion on the real time, right? What is the right way of, do we really need to do something in real time, or just RC monitoring on both ends? Is that fine? Right? Is there any additional things that we can do? Let's talk more, because I know, Trevor, do you want to add anything on the ICCP environment? Because doing a comparisons and then sending it out, it's going to be a huge change on the ICCP side, right?
Yeah, definitely. We would have a lot of work there, but I can see the benefit of doing it that way. So let me take some time to think about it. And
okay, we'll talk offline, Trevor, and then see if something can on the other side, right? Yeah, it's a change, but yeah, if it adds value to RC point of view to become a clearinghouse on all the fronts, right? That, yeah, let's talk more and see what is the right way. Or do you want to do everything in WebLiner? Let's talk internally and then come up with something so we can discuss in the next meeting maybe.
Sounds good.
Excellent. Thank you. Good discussion. Thanks, guys. So I have one more slide, I think. Stacy, can you move to the next slide, please? Yeah, I mean, again, this. I just want to hear from you folks where you are with respect to the compliance. Nicholas, thanks for sharing and Pack. I know BPA is working. I know I heard different from them multiple times. So is there any other TOPs that where they are, where you are with respect to, if you want to share your story, maybe there's an opportunity to if not, we can talk offline. If you don't want, if you're shy to speak in public, maybe you want to send in like an offline message to me as well. I would like to hear where you guys are with respect to your compliance, where your rating methodologies are, at what point, and what are you thinking from a technology point of view, internal tool or vendor developed tool. I would definitely love to hear from you. I think that's it from a slides point of view, but let's continue to have this discussion on the tie lines and once we have more concrete information, we'll share with the team. That's where we are right now. As I mentioned, we also have a discussion with SPP next week. Once we have more information from that calls, we'll share with you folks where we are headed with respect to the RC to RC coordination on this ratings too. Brenda, if I didn't see any questions, if not, it's you can take over. Thank you.
Thank you. I will, let me just double check if there's no more questions. I don't see any. Well, I wanted to go ahead and do another quick overview on a few slides that didn't make it, but we do have the upcoming new resource implementation hybrid meeting coming on May 1st, 2024. This meeting is open to all stakeholders to participate both in person and also virtually. We just sent out a notice yesterday in regards to the virtual details. We do have a lot of people planning to attend, so we also provided a list of attendees who in their organizations that will be coming to this specific meeting that's held on May 1st from like 9 to 3:30 p.m. So it'll be held at the ISO office. We also have an announcement that the California ISO will be launching its new website pretty soon. So we just want to give everyone a heads up that it's coming around mid-May. Just anticipate more communication from our team and other meetings. So we'll have more announcements to that in regard for that upcoming new website launch for the CaliforniaISO.com. And then next, we do have the save the date for the 2024 Stakeholder Symposium coming on October 29th through 30th. It will be held at the Safe Credit Union Convention Center in Sacramento, California this year. One-day event will be held on the 30th with the welcome reception on 29th. We will be planning to send out an announcement on exactly the location of the reception pretty soon, and registration will be announced also as we're working together to finalize our sponsorship packages and registration. I did see a question, Raja, on the chat. I want to make sure we see that before I end the call. Raja, would you be able to see that question we have in the chat? I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, I think the question is towards Gig. I think Gig mentioned how BP is doing it, and Daniel Murphy had a question to Gig. So.
Okay, great. Thanks. Awesome, great. Well, thanks everyone for joining, and we appreciate it. Have a great day, and thank you, Stacy. You can go ahead and close our call.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, everybody.
That concludes our conference. You may now disconnect.